Titans, Beast World, issue 1, Tom Taylor writing with Ivan Reis on the art. So this, of course, there's some things in here that obviously we were always going to read the Tom Taylor ongoing anyway, but there's definitely a couple things in here that if you have been reading Titans that you are rewarded for, because you'll understand some references and some setup, particularly to Beast Boy splitting himself up, and the idea that if he loses any part of himself, it's taking a part of him away.
I love that he has seeded that through issue 2 of Titans to now, because it made all of that stuff really land harder. Yeah,
it hit so well here. So this issue would absolutely work for someone who hasn't been reading Titans, but even just Brother Eternity and all this stuff. We just have so much context as soon as this starts, because he's on the news talking to everyone, basically saying, we're the future, we're sending people to Titan, which by the way, that's one of the things here, is that we're dealing with the moon Titan on Saturn, and it's just a fun little play on things, because we're doing a Titans book.
Yeah, I like that, but I also, Despero's from Titan. So I was thinking, is this playing into Despero, right?
Well, not yet, but
yeah. But
doesn't
I
mean
will
it
say
can.
to you, always be wary of a church that has a space program. They sent these astronauts to Titan in this spaceship with money, it seemed like, from the church. So yeah, just be wary, guys.
Do any churches on Earth actually have a space program?
I don't know. But
I hope not.
I would not give them my money if they did. That's all I'm saying.
It would be Scientology if there was.
Yeah, I wasn't going to say it. I just remember lawyers. I didn't say anything.
Yeah. So, these astronauts go to Titan. Meanwhile, there's this narration kind of summing up the cycle of superheroes, where there's despair, but then there's inspiration, and then hope, then triumph, or whatever. And that's kind of seeded here. But we get these astronauts landing on Titan, finding what looks like some kind of structure, something that's been built. It's not a natural occurrence. And then Brother Eternity starts speaking in Tamaranian, and immediately we cut to Titan's tower, and Starfire's losing her shit.
Yeah, and it's not even Tamaranian, it's old Tamaranian.
Yeah, it's ancient.
On top of it. Yeah. Which is never good. Anytime I've seen enough movies that when someone starts speaking in a dead language, something bad's about to happen.
So it feels really big in scope. The Titans are all getting their boom tube ready to go to Titan and try and save the astronauts, because there's turmoil happening. There's earthquakes and stuff, and the astronauts are in trouble. So 4 of the Titans go. Raven kisses Beast Boy before he goes with the team that's going on the mission, which is Starfire, Donna, Cyborg, and Raven goes, not Beast Boy, it's the other way around.
Yeah.
So they go, but the astronauts are already dead, and Raven senses a heartbeat, and I love the lettering on this. You just see this tum tum, it comes in slowly and small, and then it gets bigger down the page, and then you turn the page and it's really big, so it feels like it's building and building.
Well, and it feels like it's completely enveloped her entire senses.
Yeah. So they all move because the entire moon rips apart. It turns out that there's a goddamn Titan inside Titan.
Yeah, there's a conqueror like Starro.
Yeah.
Which I do like. I know I'm going to come off as hypocritical, because we always talk about other writers just doing this is the bad version of X. However, seeing that there's other kinds of Star Conquerors, not just Starro, I do like what that does for the DC universe as a whole, right? Because it's a big galaxy. So adding another one of these things, I don't necessarily think is too much. And then when you see what it can do, and it's completely different than Starro, I think is a nice touch.
Yeah, I mean, Starro was already a villain, so I don't really think it is just an example of here's the bad version of something anyway.
Or a different version of. I'm talking the power rings, right? How that kind of got out there. So the fact this is the Necro Star, which also sounds metal as hell. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, so this thing appears, and then Starfire's explaining to everyone, and I do mean everyone, like Superman, Batman are all there. You got everyone in this room that's currently active, and she's explaining what the Necrostar is, and that ancient Tamaranians had to try and fight this thing, which was difficult because this thing could control people, and it seems that these parasites that are being put into people's mouths are actually coming from it. Like, that's sort of part of its chain of technology, if you will. So she whips out this big book. It's like, here's the star, and here's the thing. And it's like, well, how did you fight it? Well, we didn't. This did. And we find out that, and this is the thing, it's not just that it's another thing like Starro, it's that Starro and this thing fought back in like ancient times in Tamaranian lore. They had a giant fight, and the fight weakened both of them so much that the Tamaranians were able to imprison it, freeze it into like a moon form, and it seems that Brother Eternity, who we know is Tamaranian from Titans, seems to worship it and wants to wake it up, wants to do something, you know, like we were getting, we're kind of getting this as we're being fed the information throughout the issue.
Yeah, so a little backstory of Starfire too, and this also, that Tales of the Titan Starfire kind of added a little bit of background to this, is that when he blows that thing up and he's saying the stuff in Tamaranian, she recognizes that he's saying death to Exhal, right? Exhal is the Tamaranian god that Starfire's in the image of, right? That's how she gets her star bolts and all of this, is her, you know, when she was experimented on, it was to unlock like the powers of Exhal. So just the idea of Brother Eternity being from this different cult of Tamaran, you know, that seems to be in opposition of Starfire's, you know, her, you know, whatever system she came from. I think that's another nice little wrinkle to the Titans' backstories.
Yeah. I think this idea that he's an opposing force who is against what most Tamaranians believe in, and wants to wake this thing up for, and I'm sure we'll get further embellishments on exactly what he wants and why he worships it as we go through the event. But yeah, I thought that was really interesting. I thought this instantly had a lot of cool mythology to it. The idea that Starro fought it once, and when they're like, "Hey, this thing's on its way to Earth. Do we just go get Starro? Is that the only option here?" And that's what Batman wants to do. And then Beast Boy chimes in and says, what your plan is to just get another Star Conqueror to fight it? And Batman's, well, do you have another plan? And he's like, yeah, actually, I think I do. So we don't hear what the plan is. We just see it being acted in the back half of the issue. Raven can sense it in him as he's sort of alluding to it. But Dick sticks up for him and says, no, this is my team. I trust them. Let's do what Beast Boy wants. So the entire Justice League and all of the, not that Justice League's active right now, but you know what I mean. All of the heroes all prep for what Beast Boy's about to do, which is Beast Boy. Well, he becomes a whale first, but then he becomes a Starro, or as he puts it, a Garrow.
So at first when Batman is like, we have to get Starro, I was like, where's Jarro? Right? Like, is this Tom Taylor reintroducing Jarro? And just the way that Batman talks down to Gar and Dick sticking up for him, I really liked, right? Because that just shows kind of the difference between Bruce and Dick as leaders. Whereas, not that he diminishes Gar, but he doesn't take him seriously because Beast Boy's never given Bruce a reason to take him seriously, right? He's just kind of like his son's goofy friend. So when he's throwing out ideas, Batman's really dismissive. But I like that Dick comes to Gar's like aid and is like, no, like, let's hear him out. I trust him. He's one of my best friends. I like that part of it. And then, him becoming Garro. I had no idea that was going to happen, right?
It felt like a big deal. This felt like a lot of what Tom Taylor did in Deceased, where he would use characters in ways in which felt natural to the lore, but was obviously in the context of the zombie apocalypse. But it felt like everything came from this idea of using what's established to do something. And he's obviously added to Beast Boy's lore in these past few issues of Titans to set this up. But this felt like, oh no, like, Beast Boy is going supernova. And that page, like, so he's in his mind talking to Raven, and Raven's basically giving him the pep talk. And she's also, like, sharing the pain of what he's doing because it's actually extremely painful for him to do this.
Yes.
The page after that, which is, like, this, like, monstrous mix of different creatures that he's becoming as he's trying to get bigger, as he's trying to become a Starro, effectively, is grotesque. It's beautiful. I love it. And it's during this because Starfire is very adamant. The big problem with this thing, with the Necrostar, is that when its parasites get to you, it takes over, right? So when we see it take over Shazam, we're like, oh shit, now Shazam's going to be fighting for the bad guys, right? Now we've got heroes that have got superpowers that are going to be a problem. And immediately in comes little Garrow, the little green star, and goes into Shazam's mouth and like pulls it out. Yeah,
that was grotesque too, right? Like,
oh yeah, it's disgusting.
It's leaning into body horror, and I love it.
And Gar even says, "Yes, this is disgusting. I'm literally in like 10,000 people's mouths right now, pulling out other parasites. It's gross." But it felt like Beast Boy all of a sudden has felt more important than he ever has done in this issue.
Taylor's found his untapped potential, you know. And I was gonna say about him becoming the Whale. That was another thing we saw in the Tales of the Teen Titans, is that issue where he runs into the guy that, you know, is a werewolf. One of the things Gar does is turn into a massive whale, just because he's spreading his, you know, as before he goes into battle. It's kind of like to prep himself, you know, size wise for what he has to do. And so here, when he says that he becomes a whale to stretch his brain, right?
Yeah, he's talking about how the whale's got a bigger brain than him, so this literally helps him think and sort of plan better.
And so that was another thing that, like, I don't know if it was just by chance that they kind of seeded in there in those Tales of the Titan books. So I think that's really, you know, whether or not it was seeded in there, it worked out really well.
I mean, given that you've referenced 2 of the issues so far, I feel like they probably were seeded. It feels like they were setting up some details that are paying off now that we're in this event. So yeah, we get these big, gorgeous splash pages of Garrow fighting the Necrostar, and just the others being in shock, watching Beast Boy fly up as this giant star. It feels like this big cosmic battle, and it says Cyborg comes to try and like help, basically make a giant boom tube for the to hit Necrostar into like the furthest part of the universe. Like, hey, go off to this black hole, just stay there, and you'll never bother anyone again.
It's the doomsday principle, right? Where just send him to another galaxy where he's someone else's problem.
And it seemingly kind of works, although Beast Boy does lose one of his 5 arms in the boom tube. It closes on his arm, so he's very upset about that. And it's like, oh wait, like he just succeeded. Like, so take out what's about to happen. Beast Boy had this idea to fight this big thing, and it worked. He's the hero here. He saved the entire universe, or at least our galaxy.
He saved our solar system at least.
Yeah,
he saved the Necrostar.
He saved everyone on Earth with his idea, and it was this big glorious thing. And just when you're like feeling the victory, you're feeling the awe, and you're happy about it, and you're feeling great, then all of a sudden, like, Cyborg's not responding, and then who shows up? We get Dr. Hate, who was set up at the end of the last event, and specifically did say that we're going to see him next time in Beast World. That this was a character being set up for Beast World. So it was almost like it lulled you into like a sense of like forgetting to set that up. Just it's like, oh, because I was wondering like, well, he can't win against this big thing because otherwise, what's the event? And then
we had known.
Then he does win, and then it's like, oh no. This is what's really going to be going on now.
So what got me is I know from the the little reading of the solicits that we've done, I remember hearing about the Beast Boy spores. So I just thought maybe something happened by accident. Maybe as we're reading the necro, spores and the Garo spores, maybe it's something had happened. I wasn't expecting Dr. Hate, right, to pop up right here and now, and kind of be the inciting incident for the rest of it.
Yeah, I definitely like this appearance way more than that first appearance where he was just kind of like, hey, this is a new character working with Waller, and it's probably someone we know under the helmet. In fact, he shows Gar who he is, although he specifically says, let me show you exactly what I am. He doesn't say who, he says what I am. And then Gar says, we don't get to see who it is, obviously, but Gar sees it and says, you? How? Like, that's his reaction. So he recognizes whoever this is.
Yeah.
That's important. So maybe we could have some speculation, but Dr. Hate steps in here and does something with whatever power he has, and Raven screams out because she can't feel Gar's mind anymore, says he's not there, and we just see what's left. So it's basically like his mind is gone and all that's left is the monster that he became at the end. So now Gar himself is now the threat to Earth, because now he is actually some kind of Starro-like being. So it's interesting. And the issue ends with one of his little stars, the little parasites, going inside Black Adam, and not only does it, I mean, maybe it does take control still, but there's a key effect that happens that's different from the parasites of the Necrostar, and this is the setup for what the book, the event has been billed as, is that it's Beast World. All the characters who get infected are going to turn into some kind of animal version of whoever they are. So Black Adam here looks like a lion, I would say.
Yeah.
He's got a lion head.
Which makes sense. He's a king. It makes sense.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say he's still walking on two legs though. He's not. Yeah. But the idea is, he's got. So I think that's like, okay. Now you get at the end. This is why it's called Beast World. Now it makes sense why it's called that, and now it makes sense that this isn't really Gar that's doing this, but it's like his husk in his absence because his mind has been taken by Dr. Hate. I thought this was a great first issue of an event. I was super into all this. Yeah.
And like you said, I didn't make the deceased connection of the type of big story swings that Tom Taylor does and works with. And that's what this is full of. So like, it's kind of Tom Taylor 101, and I love it for that. So, but yeah, the whole not realizing about the Necro star and him pulling all that out and then adding the Tamaranian mythology, and just it made it actually feel like an event in ways that some of these other, like the ones that came before it, really didn't. Right? That those were all just like stories that were having offshoots. This felt like a big, like DC altering event, right?
Yeah, and it really does feel like the concept came from, well, what if somehow Beast Boy infects everyone else and they all turn to animal versions of themselves? That feels like it's the core, simple, like almost silly idea that the whole thing's built around. But the way that we've gotten to that point is actually really entertaining and kind of awesome. And it's raised Beast Boy up as a character in terms of what he's capable of. I do wonder if they somehow nerf him a little bit by the end of this. Like, oh, we get him back, but he can't do anything bigger than an elephant now.
It's curious because of Dark Crisis, right? When he gets shot, and he had that whole, him wearing the eye patch and him having the PTSD, on it. So I'm wondering if that's going to be the kind of mental block that he has, where he's like, I can't do anything like this ever again. So he stops becoming swarms and whatever, because he loses too much of himself. So I'm wondering if it'll be more his choice than anything else.
Oh, maybe. Maybe.
And then on top of that, like, we know that each of those beings that, that's him, right? Each of the little Garos that go through, but also that giant limb that went off with the Necrostar.
Yep.
So there's another Gar possibly out in the far part of the universe. So I'm wondering if that's gonna pop back up. Maybe that's the thing that brings him back.
Yeah, I don't think that the part of him that get cut off will be another Gar, right? I don't think that happens, but I could see it being, like you say, either somehow a link to him that is they somehow use later, or possibly it's actually a link for the Necrostar to come back to Earth, because it's got this sort of, well, I don't want to say homing beacon, but the idea that Gar's arm will have some sort of like connection to the rest of them that it can follow or something. I don't know. I could see something like that maybe. I also like the idea that if all of these little stars that are part of Beast Boy, right? Because there's a big one, but then there's all the little ones that are infecting the various characters, like Black Adam here at the end, as the example we get. Is that technically that means if Gar comes back before they've all turned back, he will be like in all of them. He will be like kind of maybe not in control, but in some level, maybe part of how they like save him later on is by having everyone who's infected, or at least all the good characters who are infected, actively try and kind of like all not reach out, but like show Gar that they care about him by all thinking about him at the same time, and kind of like drawing a connection to him or something. Like, I don't know, like I feel like there's possibilities here because they've set up that no, all of these little stars are all connected to Gar. So on some level, maybe like sort of wrestling him back is going to be everyone kind of using them to communicate with them or something. I don't know. Like there's possibilities here.
For sure.
Yeah. No, I thought this was great. Obviously the big splash pages were great. The Ivan Reis, he does good event art. He's kind of like, he's like peak DC house style, I guess, in a lot of ways, as Ivan Reis. But I think it felt like, okay, one, I like that Titans felt like pretty essential reading. It felt like I was being rewarded for knowing a lot of these details already. I also felt like, because it doesn't go into a lot of detail about Brother Eternity being Tamaranian. We know that from Titans. Here, you just have Starfire reacting to what he's saying, but it doesn't actually necessarily outright, thingy.
No, it's not like he wiped off the makeup again like he did at the end of Titans. He's just speaking Old Tamaranian.
Yeah. That said, though, does he not say his real name in this?
I'd have to go back and look. I don't have it open in front of me.
Because he says something like, that's not my name when he's talking. Maybe he doesn't actually say what his real name is. I'm thinking about it.
Right, because I thought he was taking as Brother Eternity. That's not who he really is. Because he's just posing. But yeah, I also want to know what's going on with those spores. Like, were those Necro Star spores?
I think so.
That infected Linda.
Yeah, because remember in Titans, they had a meteor in their church. Presumably that came from Titan.
Was from that. That's right. Okay.
I think that makes sense. That makes complete sense to me. That's good stuff.
But yeah, there it is. Titans. But yeah, no, he's a good villain that, like, there's still an air of mystery to him, which I appreciate. Even though we know he's Tamaranian, but why is he doing all this? What if he have done this? Did he go out and search out the Necrostar? And that's why. So he's almost,
Yeah, so like I'm looking at the page now.
Subject.
I'm looking at the page now. He doesn't say what his name is. He just says, no, that's not my name, implying that he has a real Tamaranian name. I do wonder, I mean, unless he turns out to be Dr. Hate, but I feel like Gar's reaction does not tell me it's him. It tells me it's something that's a bit more personal to either him or the Titans in general.
Yeah.
So, but what's interesting to me here, though, is that what does Brother Eternity do now that, the very thing that he was trying to unleash upon the world has been sent, to the furthest reaches of space? Like, how does he react to Garrow? What does he make of Beast World? Because he's been set up here at the start, and so much of the first chunk of the issue, because this is an oversized issue, of course, the first part of the issue is all focused on him making this speech and the reveal of what's in Titan. But then by the end of the issue, we shift very much to a different threat, and now Beast Boy himself is kind of the threat, although he's not really in there, if that makes sense. And Dr. Hate's the real antagonist. But I know Tom Taylor's not going to do all this setting up of Brother Eternity if he's not going to factor into this event in a big way. So I'm very curious as to how he's going to fit into the rest of this now. And what does he try and do now that his plans have been kind of foiled? Does he try and work with what he's been given in terms of Garrow? Does he try and sort of pivot to that? Does he want to fight that because it's not the true god that he worships? Or I don't know. Like I'm genuinely curious.
Yeah, because Dr. Hate and Brother Eternity have nothing to do with each other as far as we know.
It's right, unless it's him under the mask, which is entirely possible. But I mean, don't think so.
But like, it's the way that Gar says it. I think it's someone from the Titans past.
Yeah, that was exactly my thinking. Yeah.
Yeah, and because so it's a character that we maybe haven't seen in a minute that possibly is, as far as we know, dead. So. Like, what are Hawk and Dove up to? Like, is it one of them? You know what I mean? Like, because remember, it was the gods of order that gave Waller the power to make Dr. Hate. It was a Council of Light or whatever that was. So something along those lines, or like, with all the amount, I know they don't really have much to do with each other with Justice Society, but like with all the talk that Salem the Witch Girl is doing against Khalid, like what if it's the older Dr. Fate, not Kent, but the other one? Is it Hector Hall, the son of Hawkman? Like, what if it's him taking up the helm? And he hasn't been seen in a while, but it's definitely somebody that Gar would have known from before. And I don't think he's that close with.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Is I don't think Gar would have that much of a reaction for him.
Yeah.
Compared to other people, so I'm not sure.
So.
I mean, I guess technically, I was going to joke and say Roy Harper, but because I was thinking maybe it would make sense that it's someone who used to be a Titan or a Teen Titan. Mm-hmm. But he's in Green Arrow right now, so I don't know how that.
Yeah, I would say there's a lot going on with him in Shoes / Leon.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they would do that. That seems to be too messy. But I mean, it gives me a reason to not like. I realize that Roy has entered the Jason part where it's just fun to make fun of him. So, yeah.
Yep. So no, lots of big stuff. I think the scope of it felt huge. It felt like an event should compare to the ongoing book, where it feels like, oh no, this does feel like a big deal. And the fact that we're getting, I think, 2 issues a month plus Titans means that I think the pacing is going to feel quite nice. Obviously, I'm pretty sure all the issues aren't as oversized as this one. Maybe I'm wrong. I've not checked, but there's some glorious stuff here. The big 2-page spread of Necrostar coming out of the Titan moon, which, by the way, it's really funny to me that Titan the moon is just now not there in DC continuity.
Yeah.
It's just been ripped apart by the creature from within.
But given that it's comics and stuff, I'm sure they could fix it. Just slam it back together with some superhero powers.
Yeah, but will they even bother? I don't think they will.
I don't know, but again, because I just thought there's so much, like, again, Despero's from Titan. You have in the Legion of Superheroes, Emra, Saturn Girl. She's from the Moon of Titan. So it is a pretty big, like it is a place in DC. So just to be gone now. So maybe just this chunk. Who knows? Yeah,
maybe it's not completely gone. I mean, it looks like the entire thing's going to me, the way it's coming, like that big 2-page splash, the way it's like coming out. But I suppose you could argue that it's just the surrounding ground. But they do mention later that this thing is as big as a continent. So this makes me think that this is the entire side of the moon exploding. Yeah,
it could be. But God, if he's the size of the continent too, how big has Starro always been drawn? Right? Because like Starro's like city-sized when he shows up. So who knows? That's just one of those things I can't think about too much.
Yeah.
Because that means Gar was the size of a continent.
Yeah, which is ridiculous. And also, to be fair, they do show that Starro is smaller than the Necrostar, like in the book when Starfire's showing them off.
Yeah, but he's bulkier. So like, Starro looks like what you think of a traditional sea star, whereas the Necrostar looks like one of those kind of feathery, spindlier sea stars that you see in like aquariums. They don't look nearly as sturdy. I don't know. Have you ever held a sea star, Pete? Where they feel like rocky?
I I think so.
It is bulkier Starro compared to the Necro. So I also like that it wasn't just like a darker color Starro, right? It had its own like wispy kind of. It felt evil. It had like tentacles instead of arms.
Yeah,
Um,
it looks. It just looks more gross, I guess, for lack of a better term. It's got sort of spiky bits. It feels like it's got a big kind of anus mouth with teeth in the middle of it, which feels different.
Which that's what it is. Knowing sea star biology, it's one whole. It does both. So spot on there, Pete.
Lovely.
Also, and not to go into this too much too, sea stars are one of the few creatures that can clone itself. So if you chop off one of the arms, but as long as it has one of the center sections still attached, it'll grow a whole new sea star off that one arm, and the sea star's other arm will grow back.
You think that's maybe seeding stuff for Beast Boy then?
Maybe that's what made me think it. I'm not going to bet anything on that's what it is. I think you're more close in that it's just a device for maybe to bring back the evil Starro, the Necro Star in the future.
Or alternatively, the heroes have to go find that arm because that arm will have a part of the real Beast Boy still inside it, and then they can use that to get to the rest of the real him, wherever he is.
And that's what I was kind of thinking along those lines. But again, he's Beast Boy, not an actual sea star. So
yes,
it's not necessarily that those, laws of physics and science apply to him. But it's just something worth noting and makes me, seem smart for knowing that. So I watched way too much Animal Planet as a kid.
We'll go with that. So... No, I think this book ends off in an interesting predicament. I think the scope is there. I think the characters feel that there's a lot of weight to the moments where Gar's leveling up to do this. His moments with Raven, I think, land really well. And then the concept by the end that it sets up with Black Adam turning into a lion is kind of fun and looks cool in the art. And I'm curious to see what other heroes or villains get turned into various types of creatures.
Yeah. The part of me that just wants to see what they're going to do, like, what if one of these things get on Superman? What does he become?
An eagle.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. And also, just as a Starfire fan, seeing her take she's not taking center stage, but she seems to be very important, at least early on in this. Like, she's the one that addresses everybody with the Necro Star. She leads that team, onto Titan and all that stuff. I like that Tom Taylor, it is a Titans book, right? Like, yes, this was Gar's main thing, but Starfire and Raven and Cyborg all have very important roles in the book. None of them feel like just background characters.
To be fair, we might not even see Beast Boy for a little bit.
Yeah.
We might go to wherever he is, and he might get like a subplot running alongside like everyone else doing their thing.
Yeah.
But it's entirely possible they might not show us Beast Boy for an issue or two. Well, it's just all the heroes dealing with the new crisis that's now upon them.
Right.
So.
The Beast Crisis.
Yeah, maybe we should have called it that. Beast Crisis.
Maybe. Or I'm glad they didn't call it like Crisis on Beast World. Something like that. I'm glad that it feels like its own thing.
Crisis on Infinite. Gars.
Gars. Yeah, that'd be the closest one. Because you can't say Crisis on Infinite Girths.
Crisis.
That's completely different.
Crisis and the Beast.
Yeah. The Middle Beast Crisis.
I don't know what I'm saying anymore.
That's okay.
But no, it's a very good first issue. I enjoyed it a lot, both story and art, and it's like I've been enjoying Titans. I think I like this even more than any of the Titans issues we've had so far. It felt really exciting. So, what are you rating Titans Beast World issue 1, Matt?
I'm gonna come hot out the gate and give this a 9.
I agree. I'm giving it a 9.
Oh wow,
it's very good. I liked it quite a bit. I forgot what it was like to be into an event this much.
For real, I agree.
Been a while.